Earth, Wind, and Fire. I love it. Why? They're talking about a fantasy. I have a lot of them. One of them is not living in a state of euphoria. It's not wearing down my body, losing my teeth, and aging prematurely. It does include improving my human performance, but not through the use of performance-enhancing drugs, which will destroy me, which will make me paranoid, which will help me wish for death. First slide. World War II was a horrible time for millions of Europeans and Americans. There was conflict, millions of deaths. There were leaders that were unduly influenced for power. A lot of them were influenced by drugs, one particularly, Adolf Hitler, the graphic on the left. It has been proven that he was addicted and used about 72 different drugs, one of which we hear about is crystal methamphetamine. I don't really know that it was crystal methamphetamine, but that's what that particular website claimed. And the claim has been substantiated by his particular physician, Theodore Morell. He prepared his concoctions. He was called, and my German pronunciation is somewhat weak, Reisenspitzenmeister, or the Needle Master for the Hitler leader, Adolf Hitler. But here's what's amazing, what most people don't really know, is that the German society, we're going to talk about it, they had a global addiction and use for psychotropic drugs. The army, the Wehrmacht, many of them, which came from society, were also addicted and used it to enhance their performance. Next slide. That commercial product was known as Pervitin. It was, in fact, methamphetamine as the base product. In the United States, we call it speed. Crystal meth is a form of this chemical composition. But you see the commercialized product labeling in both the box and the tablet. The Wehrmacht, that's the army, packaging in 1941 was shown there. The army purchased vast quantities of this product. And it was also associated with the Blitzkrieg, form of war before that. It was a revolution. It was speed. It was using mechanized vehicles rather than animals like horses or troops walking into battle. They used motorized vehicles. They also used aircraft in rapid attacks. It was also a new strategy, but what we don't hear about is the soldiers themselves were powered by this particular drug and the base being methamphetamine. Who manufactured it in Berlin was a company called Temmler. The name right now, today, and you could call me a liar, look it up, is Bayer Pharmaceutical. B-A-Y-E-R. They manufactured it then, and let's look at their other products now. Next slide. The Wehrmacht. They called it a wonder drug, Pervitin. 35 million tablets were purchased in 1940. They had just barely started war making. Of course, we know it went on for the next 5 years. They found the following positive results in studies on German students. They found heightened awareness, increased self-confidence, cooperation in taking dangerous risks. They found increased concentration, reduced sensitivity to pain, hunger, thirst, reduced need for sleep, at least initially, all those beneficial things. That's what powered the soldiers to commit amazing victories with very little sleep, very little food. But their use was increased as time went on because the effect wore down. The human body can adapt very quickly, but these troops were called super troops, super weapons. They were also called superhumans. Next slide. The Allies saw that, and the military planners were astounded. So they came up, believe it or not, with their own mix. What they did studies with what are known as amphetamines, pet pills, if you will. They increased what they saw in their troops, in their studies, only a 5% increase in most mental tasks. The reaction time, hand-eye coordination, were significantly increased. They restored mental performance when they were in sleep-deprived situations. Their physical strength and endurance was also increased. Their use was also for motion sickness, great for pilots. They named it, in their own formulation, Adderall. And they had a fancy name. But here's the difference. The Germans, the society, were buying them off the shelves, and the troops themselves were sent their mixtures from their home. They asked their parents to send more because they could survive in the cold. They didn't have to eat as much. But in the Allied forces, this particular concoction, Adderall, was administered only by medical professionals. It was not self-administered. It was a pill format rather than the other format. And so it was a much slower induced reaction. Next slide. Let's bring it up to today. There are documents on the internet, and I've referenced it here, the enhanced soldier in the near future. It's a document you'll find in the U.S. Army. You see that weapon on the left? That's an amazing weapon. It uses computerized technology to detonate a specific round. It's a high-tech weapon. Look in the image in the middle. That is the uniform for enhanced soldiers. It uses robotics to enhance the human performance in various formats. But the bottom line, they learned from this World War II study, battle fatigue is how those amphetamines were used to bring the soldier back up to their normal capability. They used amphetamine and caffeine for soldier enhancement, better performance. What we're doing with this new study is we're looking at every augmentation to the human performance to have a tactical advantage over the enemy. So this super soldier idea was transmitted from the Germans, is now in the United States Army, so that soldiers could act more like a machine, reduce their empathy for the enemy, other humans, is what they're saying. So you can look that up, but the bottom line is we're looking for ways to make better fighting soldiers. Next slide. Here is where I think the rubber hits the road with enhanced human performance. It's called psychotropics. There are negative effects. Look at that caricature on the left. That comes from an Army document. Person's drinking energy drinks to keep them going. On the right, in the middle, you'll see the idea that normal troops can perform to X level, and that enhanced troops, whether it's a medication or their genetics, can perform at Y level, which is significantly better. They can run faster, think better. And on the right-hand side, we have high-performance aircraft that are amazing. They can fly for hours and hours and hours. Guess what? The human component of that weapon system can fail. That's why research has been performed to induce increased performance in that human operating that system. Well, psychotropic drugs are handed out, believe it or not, and they help the brain and the body improve mood and behavior. Well, these psychotropic stimulants, if you will, are perfect for normal human beings to operate in slightly increased performance levels under medical supervision. Here's one of the challenges that the commanders of these troops want, and after a while they expect, and then they demand superhuman performance. Once they reach a certain level, well, can't you do X or Y? That's the driver. That's the threat to our loved ones that are serving in those capacities. And since we have a professional force now, volunteers, what they call them, we're going to expect those higher levels. And each unit is costing more. One of those aircrafts, the F-15, were X amount. Now, some of those aircraft are billions. Next slide. Here is where the rubber hits the road for us as humans, us as consumers, us as normal people. Look at the pictures. These are actual pictures I pulled off the internet. You can look at the link. But if you've never known anyone who is what they call experimented or self-administered these particular chemicals, look at the girl on the left, and then look at her booking photograph after use of these products, self-administered. The gentleman on the right-hand side, you can see his picture on the left and the picture on the right. Oh, Andy, you're just exaggerating. That's a big lie. That's just propaganda. Well, number one, Methamphetamine is an illegal drug if you don't have a physician prescribing it to you. It acts as a central nervous stimulant. You can only handle it so long. Yes, it will eat your fat, but then it'll eat your whole body. It's highly addictive. People do build a tolerance, so it takes more each time. More and more of the substance. It will produce, after a certain point, paranoia. People think they're trying to kill you. Hallucinations, repetitive behavior. See somebody scratching their skin because they believe they have spiders or ants or insects crawling all over them. That's probably a methamphetamine-induced reaction. They have delusions. They have long-term use of methamphetamine can cause paranoia and psychoses. It can even lead to a stroke or death. Here's my recommendations to you on the last slide. Look and study that graphic that shows that particular individual, and look at that web page to see that's the person she became as a result of using this product. Here are my recommendations. Do not self-administer any pharmaceutical. Obey all laws. If you are addicted, seek help. And I'm going to tell you this every time you watch one of my segments. You're only issued one body. Take care of it. Do not live in a fantasy, drug-induced world. Thank you very much.